I smashed the people, I knocked out people.
What's up YouTube? This is the Pro Fight Fan and welcome to the channel where we talk all things fighting. Updates, breakdowns, reactions, and everything in between. In today's video, we're assessing Khamzat Chimaev in order to answer the question, is he really that good? And we're starting right now. There have been many in the media who are calling for Khamzat Chimaev to fight the upper echelon of the welterweight or middleweight division. Some are even calling for him to fight for the title next. And are they right, or are they trying to move Chimaev up way too soon? I'm going to assess a few different elements in order to find out just how good Khamzat Chimaev is, and does he belong in the top of either the welterweight or middleweight divisions of the UFC this early into his career. We're going to be looking at his fighting experience, physical attributes, his fighting style, and his level of opposition. First up, his fighting experience. Khamzat Chimaev has a deep-rooted wrestling background, which he started to train at the age of just 5 in Russia. Around the age of 16, he was wrestling for the national team. He would go on to migrate to Sweden in 2011, where much of his family was, and in 2018, he would win the gold in freestyle wrestling at the Swedish championships in both the middleweight and the welterweight divisions. So again, he has a very strong wrestling base. He had 3 amateur fights where he was 3-0 with 2 submissions and 1 TKO, and would become pro in 2018. Prior to entering the UFC, Khamzat would go on to amass a professional record of 6-0 with 3 wins by TKO, 1 win by KO, and 2 wins by submission. In the UFC, he's won all 3 of his fights in impressive fashion, 1 by submission, 1 by TKO, and 1 by KO, for an undefeated record of 9-0. Next, let's speak about his physical attributes. Khamzat is listed at 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. He's tall for both the welterweight and the middleweight divisions. His reach is very long for a welterweight and above average for the middleweight division. After watching all of his fights in and out of the UFC, he hasn't gotten hit a lot, but was dropped in his 4th professional fight against Sidney Wheeler early in the 1st round, but recovered quickly, showing he has a decent chin. But we're still not sure just how good his chin would hold up after being cracked by a top-level fighter. It's hard to assess his stamina, and he's not fought more than 2 rounds. He's shown good speed, accuracy, and very good power as well against his competition so far. I've seen him knock an opponent out with a nasty uppercut. I've seen him knock down an opponent with a jab, and we clearly just saw the power in his straight right this past weekend. Khamzat has also shown that he's extremely strong when he grabs a hold of his opponents while taking them down and holding them down. He has a lot of physical gifts. His fighting style. Khamzat is extremely aggressive. He moves forward out of the gate at a very high pace. Let's talk about his stand-up. He's shown a willingness to stand up in some of his fights outside of the UFC, as well as the fight against Smearshark. When fighting on his feet, Khamzat bounces on his feet and shows good feints, head movement, and uses nice leg kicks while pressuring forward. In some of his fights, when his opponent would attack, he's shown a tendency to move back in straight lines with his head up in the air. If his opponent lands a good shot, a lot of times he will immediately go for a takedown. His ground game is absolutely exceptional, and having the wrestling background that he does, I wouldn't expect anything less. He's been compared to Khabib because of the Dagestanian handcuff, where he locks his opponent's arm behind them while raining down shots to their dome, but he does have longer limbs than Khabib, which will help him secure this position easier than Khabib would have to with shorter limbs. His ground and pound is merciless, and just the accumulation of shots without his opponent being able to intelligently defend themselves has caused the ref to step in and stop the fight on more than one occasion. Statistically speaking, in the UFC, Khamzat has landed 9.03 significant strikes per minute with a striking accuracy of 72%, and has only been hit 2 times in all 3 fights with a 0.10 significant strikes absorbed per minute. He has a takedown average of 4.67 landed per 15 minutes and a 75% takedown accuracy. In 66 days, Chimaev has fought 3 times in the UFC for a total of 4 minutes and 38 seconds. He has 1 submission, 1 TKO, and 1 KO. There's no doubt that Chimaev has had an impressive run in the UFC so far. Now, lastly, let's look at his level of opposition. Prior to the UFC, 3 of his 6 opponents were undefeated, but they were on a similar level to where he was. For example, Marco Kissick was 4-0 while Khamzat was 2-0, so it wasn't like they were 10-0 and he was just 1-0. Anyway, you get the point. In the UFC, John Phillips was 1-3 in his last 4 fights prior to his loss to Chimaev. For Rise McGee, Khamzat was his first opponent in the UFC, but was coming off of 3 straight wins in a smaller promotion. And Gerald Meerschaert was 2-4 in his last 6 fights in the UFC and was coming off another first-round TKO loss to Ian Heinisch. Now, don't get me wrong, as I stated earlier, Khamzat is a phenomenal talent, but his level of opposition is nowhere near the upper echelon of either the welterweight or the middleweight division. I love everything about the guy, but please settle down on the top 5 talks and the title contention chatter. If we're looking at the top 10 in the welterweight division, Demian Maia is actually a good choice of opponent because we'll get to see how Khamzat does against another high-level grappler. Maia's 42 years old. He was TKO'd in his last outing against Gilbert Burns, so this would be good matchmaking by the UFC. Outside of Demian Maia, who's actually just moved in ranking into the number 6 spot with Tyron Woodley moving down to 7, I can't see the UFC putting him against any of the top 5 contenders in either the welterweight or the middleweight division. At least not yet. Let's let him fight Demian Maia. Let's see how he does. And maybe a follow-up fight with someone like a Mike Perry or a Derek Brunson would be good matchmaking for Khamzat Chimaev. If we throw him to the wolves too quickly, we can certainly see this hype train stop. Khamzat has the hype train, and he's shown great success being the hammer with clever matchmaking, but can he handle being the nail? Because that will tell us a lot. At this point, he doesn't run over any of the top 5 in any of the 2 weight classes, in my opinion. But this is MMA where anything can happen. Make sure to comment down below how you feel Khamzat would fare against anyone in the top 5 in the welterweight or the middleweight division. If you like the video, help out the channel by smashing the like button. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell as videos are constantly being uploaded. I'm the Pro Fight Fan. I'm signing out, and I'll see you in the next one.